Is this from my caucus night? Everybody was yelling at each other?
No,
Or
it's
is there a way to turn those ones off?
no, it's something weird. I did tape your mic because it was like broken.
No.
So maybe that's what I've done is,
Amplified them?
yeah.
Or is it only mine?
Testing, testing. Yeah, I think it's just yours.
Hello.
It was completely random.
Okay, well, I just won't talk. You made it in time.
Ready the audience or leave it? Yeah, you wanna turn yours off? It's probably here. Right, yeah. We can even try seats if you want.
In and out.
Oh, we got full house tonight. It's exciting, huh?
The recorder will pick me up, right?
Yeah, do you want to trade seats?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and get started. I'm Chairman Thomas. I'd like to welcome everybody out to the North Ogden City Planning Commission meeting, the March 6th, 2024. We'll begin our meeting with an invocation or a thought by Commissioner Mason, followed which will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Bailey.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to stay to gather together as residents and servants of North Ogden City, and we're grateful for the process of city government and the ability for us to be heard, and pray for and ask for guidance this evening, and we can have a spirit of understanding among everyone, that there can be tolerance and patience with those with differing viewpoints, that all may be willing to share freely and participate in the government process. We're grateful for the hand in this land, and we acknowledge it, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
All right. Everyone ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I give my daughter does it every day in school, so I've been recently refreshed.
Grab that recorder, maybe let's put it closer here so if my mic's not on, it'll pick it up. All right, we'll make note that we're all in attendance tonight. Item number 2, consideration and action to approve the February 21st, 2024 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Is there any corrections or adjustments need to be made to those minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the February 21st, 2024 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, do we have any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest on the agenda tonight from commissioners?
No.
All right, item number 4, these are administrative items. Public comments, we invite the public to come up and speak on if there's an item that's not on the agenda you'd like to address. We will allow the public to speak on each item. So if you'd like to, please step up to the mic and address us at this time. If you're online, raise your hand or type in the chat and it will be read. Do we have anybody online, John?
We do have one attendee, but no raised hands.
All right, well, let's move on to item number 5, subdivision ordinance 2023-4. Consideration and action regarding an administrative application for preliminary plat approval for the White Rock subdivision phase 3. This is 7 lots located at approximately 1401 east, 3095 north. Presenter is Ryan Nunn, our planner. Ryan?
Thank you. Yeah, so this preliminary plat was submitted for the White Rock Phase 3 subdivision. As was stated, it's for those 7 lots. It's in the city HB2 zone, which requires lot sizes of 12,500 square feet. and frontages of 100 feet. The part of the phase 3, part of our staff comments is we did have a previous technical review committee meeting held in September of last year, where conditions were given of what's needed for this phase. Some of those conditions are to meet those frontage and square footage requirements. In a previous phase, had not been reviewed, and so some of those frontages were not meeting our code, but we've confirmed with the applicants, and this new phase will meet those, and those are meeting our standard. Part of this as well is along that North Ogden Canyon Road. We require, there's a trail, a non-paved trail following there, and also requirements of adding the guardrail for that road.
Quick question on that,
Yeah,
if I may. How do those lots avoid the double fronted, what do you call it, a double fronted lot? Where you have a road in front and a road in back? I have no concerns with this really, but don't we have an ordinance that says you can't have a double fronted lot? Isn't that?
Yeah, it does say that they're discouraged, but the elevation change makes it essentially impractical to
I agree with that.
access.
actually. Okay.
Yeah, so that there is a caveat on there for the double fronted. And it also applies to major thoroughfares, which 3100 would count for
Okay.
us.
yeah, good question. Then thanks, John, for answering that.
So there will be though a trail between the backyards of these lots in North Ogden Divide?
There
Yeah,
is, yeah, continuation of that.
Cool.
exactly. Yeah, it's just a continuation from the previous pages and following that road there. And yeah, so really from staff, we find that, with the conditions in our technical review committee notes from the staff report, and we are pending an engineer's review, but we do find that this preliminary plat can be approved with those conditions. I can help answer any more questions you guys might have.
Any questions for Ryan?
The guardrail, is it just the standard kind of metal with the posts, or what kind of guardrail?
Or are there standard city details that are being followed?
Yeah, I would feel comfortable direct that towards our city engineer. He probably could help answer that a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I have a question for you too.
Okay. Yeah, so we had in phase 1, we had it just installed last week. It's just a standard guardrail. We actually use UDOT standard. And so, yeah, they just drill a bunch of posts, like they're 10 feet apart. And it's just a metal.
It's like 3 feet high or something.
Yeah, it's 3 feet wide. It's like the shape of a W. That, so, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So first of all, I'm not an engineer and I'm not questioning the engineering to this at all, but I know that when the adjoining subdivision was proposed, there was a whole bunch of residents here that were concerned about flooding, right? And it stems back to what, 1991, when the hill sloughed off, and so we put a retention basin on the other side of the Ogden Divide, right?
Correct.
To keep debris coming down, right? Is that retention basin part of the engine? What
That
kept
was
us
all
approved?
part of this whole subdivision.
Was it a part of it? Yeah, I guess my
All
question,
future phases.
I was having a hard time wording this. Okay,
Yeah,
for whatever
no, it's
reason, but that was really what my question was, does that retention basin help protect this new subdivision?
Yeah, there is another canyon that's just up the road that the former city engineer and myself, we went up there and we looked at it, that it might be a consideration of some of a potential detention basin or debris basin location. So we did look at that. It's a little further to the east, I believe, from this.
That's the
Yeah,
one.
I was really wondering where that retention basin was in relation to this.
Yeah, but yeah, that detention basin is right there on the corner, that first bend as you go under the divide.
About where the end is in North Ogden?
That dotted line.
Well, move.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right where the cursor is.
Yep.
There it is. Yeah.
okay.
Gotcha.
And that other canyon is over here.
Yeah, so future phases, as they start to move up the road, we may want to look at that canyon that's along that east side. Maybe a little
So-
bit closer.
This canyon
Mhm,
is what you're talking about.
correct. Yeah, but for this phase, that current degree basin would suffice.
Okay.
Any other questions for Eric while he's up? Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
We'll turn time over to the applicant if you'd like to address us. You don't have to. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Maybe. So let me tell you where this is coming from. And I've looked at this and I have no major concerns at all, but I do kind of concern myself with entry points to the city because it's like, hey, welcome to North Ogden. It's the first thing you see, right? And this one is never considered as an entry point to the city by many people, right? Because it's coming from a small town or from the county or whatever. So, but I'm wondering what type style homes that you're planning, or are you guys just doing the land development and not the home part of it?
Most of them have been submitted and just the new style of homes that are going in around the area.
And I'm really asking, well, I mean that of curiosity, not for approve, deny on this, so.
Yeah, you could look at the ones that are going in, it's gonna be similar to all those new houses that are being built.
Yeah, the lot sizes were the same. I noticed that.
And they look good. You guys are doing a great job there.
Yeah, I say this whenever we talk about entry points, really, that, you know, it's the welcome map, and I feel like it needs to.
You want him to paint
Well,
a W and an E?
Need a big arch over the.
Are you about to say crown jewel?
I was not gonna say crown jewel, but that's Mountain Road, but yeah. No, really and this is gonna be a little off topic, and this is what I do, I go off topic. But it's those retention basins, I think we need to like really snazz up more so than the homes, right? I mean, the homes are the homes, and yeah,
You don't like that big old scar on the hillside?
not really, no, not as a welcome to North Ogden, no, I don't.
I think one of the challenges is there's purpose in the design and the materials that are being used. So, you know, although we would love to have it be landscaped and be a really pretty look, you know, the riprap rock that's there is purposeful. And you want it to continue to maintain that shape and structure in order to protect the subdivision below. So there is purpose behind the design associated with it. And, you know, you don't want to create a maintenance issue in that area, nor do we want to change the way that looks because of the way it functions.
Okay, well, regarding the homes, you guys are gonna be so set far down off the road, people look right over the top of them, I think, coming down that part of the road.
Well, I'm gonna go off the road with you for a minute. If you make that curve and you're not.
Would you like to come up to the?
No, if you make that curve and you don't look at the road, looking at houses, you may be off the road.
Well, that's true. That's the driver, yeah.
It's such a beautiful view is this whole valley, what's the exposure as soon as you cross that last curve coming off that mountain, it's gorgeous.
Well, as you creep up there, then the houses will be the views of all the people that are parked up there that will pull out. All right, any other discussion or recommendations?
I'd move this item be approved. There were no conditions in the staff report, were there?
Yes, there is.
There were? Oh, man, I don't have my.
The engineer report, that hasn't been done yet.
Well, then, hang on, let me retract my motion. Somebody else want to move to that?
I make a motion that
Thank
we approve the preliminary plat of the White Rock Phase 3 subdivision, subject to the conditions from the engineer's report, the technical review committee memo, and the conditions noted in the staff report.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Mancaro,
Yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that will pass on. I'm sure staff told you since you did the last phase, final plat is now at staff level instead of planning, so you don't have to come back for us. Thank you. All right, item number 6, site plan review 2024-4. Consideration and action regarding an administrative application for site plan approval of the North Ogden City Police Station. It's already built. And senior center parking lot located at approximately 505 East 2600 North. We did a site plan for the public works after it was done too.
No, so this is just the police station. So the building was approved and came through the planning
Yeah, I
commission 2 years ago. Because of those other things we're trying to do better.
Look at us
All
improving.
right, this is presenter is Eric Casperson, our city engineer. Eric?
Thank you. Yeah, so as you know, public safety buildings, I think complete, I mean, can we use that word, complete?
It's there.
It's there.
It sheds water.
Probably use noodles.
Yeah, that's later.
Right?
There's a punch list.
TCO.
Yes.
Always is.
All right, so complete, right?
Yeah.
And as you know, it took the place of about 40 stalls, of this building's parking. Let's see, the site approval of public safety building in April of 22. Recommended that the planning commission review any additional parking developed for the civic campus, right? So this. And so, since we no longer need our existing police station, we are proposing to do a parking lot in its place. This is the drawing of the parking lot that we're proposing. This, the planning commission's original recommendation was not to replace the existing police station. It was before my time. But replace it with existing parking, but due to site constraints and the need of parking in this area, our recommendation would be to, well, this would be a proposal for this parking lot. This would provide more accessible parking, primarily to the public safety building, the new public safety building, but as well as this building as well, and to the whole campus here. So the kind of some details here, is that let's show some contours there.
Yeah, let me turn the light off. It's a
Yeah,
little
kind
hard to
of
see.
glares a little bit. So this one, this parking lot as it's currently drawn, provides 26 stalls here, including the 3 handicap stalls. As drawn, it shows an 18-foot long parking stall. Our standard is 19 feet by 9 feet wide. But it has a 27-foot drive aisleway. So one of the staff recommendations was to check with the city engineer regarding if the curb pan could be used as part of that parking stall. I think as long as it doesn't stop the water from flowing down that curb, I don't think there would be any problem with that. Our current standard is a 24-foot drive aisle. We have 27 feet, so we could extend these lines and not go into the curb pan and go into the drive aisle and still meet our standard of 24 feet. So that could be a suggestion there to our change of plans here. So this gives us an additional 26 stalls here in this parking lot. The plan is to also, the existing parking lot to the north will be reconfigured to a 90-degree. So from a 45-degree as it currently is to a 90-degree. And we actually gain 3 stalls just by doing that. So we are removing 3 stalls. So it's kind of a net gain of 0. Because of the entrance to this new parking lot, we are losing some stalls there. The safe exchange zone will be on the western 7 stalls along that slope there. That's the proposed area there. And so it'll be covered by cameras, and so that will be moved to there. It is, as you can see, the contours. The TBC elevation is at 16. It's about 4.5 feet above the existing sidewalk, but at a slope of about a 4-to-1 slope from the existing sidewalk up to the curb and gutter. We have do you have the landscape plan? So the landscape plan for this parking lot is as follows there with trees and shrubs. One of the concerns that we have is that some people may park in this parking lot and that the able-bodied would be able to go through or choose to go through a lot of this vegetated and xeriscaped area there to that sidewalk below. And so to help mitigate that, we're looking to extend a small piece over to that part, to the sidewalk that extends from the yeah, if you'll go up to the front door of the public safety building, that sidewalk there, as it extends down, we're looking to add a little piece of sidewalk there to help alleviate that. That's kind of
Good idea.
there. So, ADA access will be right there from the parking lot to the front door of the public safety building. Plus ADA parking there as well for the city hall building. Yes, I think that's all I have for this parking lot. Any questions that you have at
Where
this
did you
point?
say the other ADA parking lots?
So the
There
other,
was some down there.
yeah, so we'll have on the existing parking lot, we'll provide ADA parking
Okay.
out there. Yeah, right, as it is now.
And
Just at 90 degrees now.
And then you,
Yeah.
right.
Given that you're the city, are we okay if we have a discussion on something that I'd like, just a pet peeve, not pet peeve, pet
Okay.
project of mine?
Okay.
So, and I may be the only one with this opinion, and I've been a proponent of, and I may be alone on this, okay? But the civic zone should consider having, in lieu of a few parking stalls, load unload zone for just drop off, right? For the purpose of civic zone being like parks and plays and, you know, theaters and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily know as it makes a ton of sense here, right? So I'm not saying that we need a load unload zone, but I kind of like to see the city lead in that area. I'm just trying to look in the future and what are the parking needs of the future going to be? And when I look at Uber and Lyft and you know, those kind of things, I seriously think load unload zones are maybe going to be, anyway, I'd like to see the civic zone take use of that. Did you guys look at that at all? Probably not.
We did not.
I'm not saying it makes sense in this particular area, but am I the only one that shares that passion?
Well, I don't have a passion for it. It does just get brought up on other projects I work on to have an accessible loading zone, but usually that's just ADA.
If this was police station parking, I would say, yeah, whatever, but where it's civic zone and chance to for the city to kind of lead with that, I just would at least maybe give it a shred of thought. I may not get that, and it may not even make sense here, but I just wanted a brief discussion.
So I think what you might be suggesting is, like here in front of the library, I don't think it was said to be that, but it does get used for that.
Yeah.
So parents will pull up, the kids will hop out and go into the library for story time, and the parents can zip off to
yeah,
Right.
where they're headed.
exactly.
I just look 30 years from now, like, we're gonna want to discourage parking. I was just in Southern California and, I mean, it was mayhem to park down there, you know, because they're just so crowded and infilled. And, you know, anyway, it's just easier to grab a ride share everywhere than to rent a car and all that. And, you know, one day that's gonna be our city. Could be 45 years from now, but, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and the library is a great example. I think, you know, it does become almost, you feel like you're breaking the law or the traffic flow because you do use it as unload and load. It's unfortunate that that's not designated that way, like there's a space for it.
You know, I'm envisioning like a sign and it almost encourages a cultural shift. I doubt it's gonna have that much of an impact, really. I'm sensationalizing this to some extent, but
Well, you have the same thing about driverless cabs dropping.
yeah, I can get going on that too. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then wider sidewalks for motorized scooters and e-bikes. Okay, but well, I mean, I think that's our job is to have eyes on the future, and I think it may not be the future, but it's looking likely. So
Well, I
anyway.
think that just area for the library could work sufficient for this whole campus.
I agree. I don't necessarily think it makes sense here. I just, when we're talking civic parking, I thought, hey, load unload zone, like, no, no.
Well, and that, I mean, that parking lot as it's drawn is kind of the anti-drop off zone, right? Like, because you have to go in, turn around, go out. Not saying that's a bad thing in this particular case. Once people get the hang of it, right? and it's pretty obvious because it ends at a building, so
Mhm.
it should be pretty simple for that, but I do agree, maybe there's something around the back end, I don't know.
That principle alone wouldn't preclude me from approving this.
Mhm.
Again, I just wanted the
Mhm.
discussion.
If you think about that land creatively a little bit too, we've got, you know, in front of the monument there, so straight out here, there's some space that. Yeah, right there, that could, you know, you could repurpose some of that, you could kind of, you know, and I guess as long as we're talking about, you know, pet things or whatever, like this should be beautiful. It should be, it sets a tone for our city, you know, Macy, you were talking about come down the pass or whatever, I think that's an important point, but this is an area where we already have city landscaping crews coming through, like thinking about the total parking, you know, back by the, you know, the senior center and things like that, like if we can do this in a way where it's really attractive and really functional at the same time, it's a big win. Because we've already got a pretty nice little campus, you know, the library looks great now. I like how this building is set back and there's some green space up there. And just kind of, even the flow, like, it's working pretty well. I like that you can pull, there's two places off of 2600. The load unload zone, the library knows it's designated that way, it works pretty well. And I think it's worth putting some thought in here and really designing something that's both functional, but really attractive.
Mhm. Right, no, that makes sense.
Along those lines, what do you guys think about the rocks around this
like it.
landscape as opposed to like something green? You know,
That's a good question.
I'm a zero
I'm
scaper.
okay with the rocks.
I'm a green guy.
Of course, Brandon and I are on opposite ends of this one.
so yeah, I'm a green guy, but I can, you know,
Where it's on a slope, I think it can't, the grass would serve no function other than being green, because it is a slope from the parking lot to sidewalk.
and it is higher maintenance and
But,
water.
I'd be more of a proponent of putting a set of stairs in the access down to the
That's a
sidewalk
good idea.
to the west. And I think that parking lot's gonna get used mostly for people, well, I mean, people coming here and the police station, but, I think.
Some sort of access
Better
along
access,
the west
I would
side.
say the west side down to the sidewalk more so than the very south end.
Be cool too if you could
You might.
catch that sidewalk to the monument. And kind of on that
Even if
angle.
You had a
Yeah,
sidewalk
that's what I was.
coming out of that island.
Angle up that way.
Yeah.
If you go up to the larger, the more macro scale plan showing kind of the whole campus, can you go up to that page? See, if you're looking here, we've got that parking lot where the existing building is.
Mhm.
So I would argue that the zero scape is going to, accentuate the green space that's been created around the monument. That's why I would be more, a proponent of the zero scape. It's gonna be forcing people to that area that I think we've spent a lot of effort on. But when you do look, when you do look here, I think everyone's looking at that new parking lot as access to the new civic building. But if you look at it, it looks kind of like a quad and a campus, and there's already some natural, footpaths, I guess. So as you're concerned about people walking through the zero scape, I don't think people on the rocks is gonna make much of the difference. But maybe if you just, I don't know, get some different color rock to keep those flow paths going to that new parking lot. You can force people not just to use the parking lot for the new civic building, but to come access that new square that's been created. But I think looking here, it might be a little more of a tell that the parking lot has been considered from a singular viewpoint, where it might be actually, particularly the west side of that parking lot, more commonly used for this area, and maybe even walking across that quad towards the library.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and you're right. It was looking at the public safety building primarily. That's why I have to bring in so much fill to bring that up, just to make the ADA work. So.
Yeah, I just don't know if I would turn our backs on the monument that's been recently made. I think this is going to have a secondary purpose there, and it it may feel very intentional if you make an intentional move, just a recommendation, it's not that it's gonna affect my.
Yeah, no, I like
But
it.
people coming here, naturally, you're gonna drive to the closest spot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would say as many or more people come to this building than are going to the public safety building, as far as public.
Right.
And so naturally, they're gonna try and find the shortest distance from that parking lot to our front door here.
It's actually why so many of them park back here
Mhm.
and come and yank on the door by my office as they're
Yeah.
looking for the shortest route, and then they get frustrated when they have to walk all the way around.
So that's what my recommendation would be, that is someone
West
connecting the
access.
sidewalk, whether it's right where you have those pop outs, is make a sidewalk down connecting the two, or
Mhm.
I mean, I'm
Okay.
not even opposed to losing a stall to provide that pedestrian access. Because I think the majority of the people just naturally are gonna pull into that parking lot. And I would suggest that this safe, although it is, I don't know. I hate to just have an exchange stalls, 7 of them up closest to the building, be there saying, hey, this is where you do this. Cause it's close to the police station, can be monitored with cameras, but everybody's gonna pull the parking lot, it's gonna be like, oh, I can't park here, and then have to back and move, like, I think leaving it out where it's at, somewhere out there.
That's a good
And
point.
they're gonna have to
Effective, just
immediately reverse that.
no traffic.
Okay.
It's awkward.
Maybe in front of like, well,
I mean, I know where it's at now is where we're accessing this parking lot, but
yeah.
somewhere
Shift it
out
to the
there,
west.
shifted out
Shift
between
it
there
to
and
the
the
west.
library. I don't know how much that's used.
I think it's the subconscious thing though, like, can I use it? If I use it wrong, I'm right in front of the car.
Yeah, if
Exactly.
I park in here to go into the city meeting here, am I gonna get trouble?
It's actually a revenue generator.
I'm here to stay safe for the.
But
sake of
naturally,
safety.
people are gonna pull in that parking lot to park for here. And they're gonna see, oh, there's empty stalls in there, so they pull in, and then
Right.
they go to park and see a sign that says safe exchange, and they'll be like, what?
Right.
And have to turn around and go out, so I
Yeah.
think.
That's a
it'd be
great,
more
that's a great
useful
point.
They're
to keep
really
that on
good
the
point.
outside and just.
I think you just leave it open and make room for even fun future events, right? You could bring, I don't know, food trucks in, again, something to get people using the space that's had a lot of, money put into it. And in terms of the
Maybe a chalk
pathways.
festival.
Yeah, in terms of the pathways, I've seen it done 2 ways. We can try to plan it now. Or you could also wait till there's a busy event or put a time lapse camera out there and let people dictate it. Let
Put the
those,
stairs in where they board the path.
kind of just let the
Right.
natural thing happen, I mean, there are 2 ways to do it, but
Yeah.
a lot of university campuses have actually done that. They've kind of removed some of the sidewalk and intentionally put turf down and then watched where the wear paths came in, but I do think there's a nuance in this discussion that warrants a second look at this, not just from the civic center, but from the whole campus. In terms of how it faces 2600 and we're removing a building to create parking. Let's at least make sure it's effective, I guess.
Okay.
Since,
No.
since you seem open to suggestions, I have one I'd like to talk about. John, could you scroll to the bottom? So regarding that L shape.
Yes,
Right?
so I haven't talked about
Oh, okay.
senior center, but you're right, no.
Okay, we
Then
get that when you.
Before we get to that parking lot, I just had a quick question, and maybe there's already a standard in place for that, but do you guys, I mean, I don't know that the city's done a lot with the rock landscaping as opposed to, it seems like everything's been the traditional kind. Is there a standard for the type of rock, which might seem like a foolish question, but at our school, I can tell you that the rock size matters a great deal for your maintenance and your feasibility as a city to maintain that space and not have it flowing out, so I don't know if that's
Yeah, for
considered.
sure. Yeah, and the type of rock too, we don't want
Yes.
round, we want angular, we want
Yes.
something to walk in.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, we're.
Save you a lot of headaches, okay.
Right, exactly, yeah. We definitely don't want to turn it into ammunition too.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Really what we.
And if you do
Yeah.
have pedestrians crossing over, yeah,
Can you imagine someone trying to get in a fist fight in the police station parking lot?
We try to avoid baseball sized rocks.
yeah,
Yeah.
I knew a guy who almost got in a fist fight in the police station parking lot.
Recording.
Okay. Thank
In
you.
there?
I know we haven't, but we're just talking about this small piece of, the parking solution. But, looking at the whole plan, I wonder if 3 handicap spots are sufficient. I mean, we do have a pretty elderly and aging population in North Ogden. We're
There,
just looking towards the future.
but I think there's still some out front, right?
There are still some
Existing
out front.
parking lot.
Correct.
You did.
Yeah, and those out front are primarily to access this building.
Right.
Those three that in the new parking lot are primarily to access the public safety building.
Okay, and you think three is sufficient?
Yeah, it's what code requires.
Okay.
Yeah, for it.
And then there's some also for the library in the front
Okay.
and in the back.
I know it's not gonna even be an issue, the one behind the senior center, because it's not close to the building.
It seems like one of those things that if there were complaints, they could paint them in the middle.
They could always add.
Well, I guess, I can't widen them. though.
There are standards, there are
Yeah.
standards that you have to follow for that.
Yeah, we have to do an unloading zone, an unloading
Oh,
sign,
really?
so that's why there's those painted, if you zoom in there, John, a little closer. You can see on each side, those painted. Stalls basically are for unloading, for doors and wheelchairs to access and no one parks next to them, right?
And
So
for
that's-
Uber,
vans, right?
And for vans. Yep, yeah.
Okay.
I just have one more recommendation, I
Okay.
guess, since or it's just a thought again, but if you zoom out a little bit, maybe go to the more zoomed out plan.
This was just Google Maps.
That's fine. I have one here that has the red squares and stuff that I've been looking at. I think the only thing I would look at in terms of the new parking lot, along that east side, there's that tree, where the cop cars are always parked. It might just be worth looking at extending a walkway or a pathway out to 2600 there for a sidewalk to bring people more directly to the civic center. Cause right now it looks like if I'm trying to come here, I'm gonna walk through the parking lot, along the grass strip, or have to come further down and go across the crosswalk in the parking lot.
It's not a show.
So
Yeah.
I don't have any sidewalk on the east side of that parking lot, on the south side of 2600. Like, I don't have anywhere to direct the people.
The humans.
There's no
Yeah.
sidewalk on.
I don't have any, yeah, except for on the north side. I don't have any way to send them. So if a pedestrian was coming to here walking
I'm more talking coming from the east side, but
from the east side, oh,
yeah,
okay. Like on 2600?
just the thought of just flow paths of getting people across, someone misses the parking lot crosswalk and meets that dead end sidewalk, they can still get pushed down to the civic center, so.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Like do a second crosswalk, Chad? Is that what you're thinking, or?
I think he's saying, hey,
Well,
sorry,
there's just,
Along the edge of the parking. lot.
there's just
Oh,
where the sidewalk kind of dies there, where that 2600 north sign is on Google Earth.
Yeah.
Just looks like a nice walking or even just a place to sit down and do nothing. I don't know, just another extension of bringing, maybe someone who misses the parking lot or who goes, further past and
Okay.
can be brought south. It's just again, another,
Seems
Yeah,
purposeful,
I'm with you.
I think it's a great idea.
I don't know, people like to explore and diddle daddle and whatnot.
Makes it one park like, it's awesome.
Yeah, so in addition to this parking lot, we don't have kind of where we were talking there. There is no curb and gutter along that east side of the parking lot, right under that tree. There's not a curb and gutter there now.
I recognize that.
And so I was looking to put a curb and gutter
Mhm.
there, just to help with drainage. mostly.
and he's saying sidewalk with the curb and gutter, right? Isn't that?
I'm just saying more of a north-south extension of the civic
Right.
center. I'm walking out, I'm kind of meandering, and then I can head west and cross the road, or, then I find out there's no sidewalk heading east, or if there's future plans. I don't know, it just seems, once we get people here, it might be fun to let them meander around a little bit.
Yeah, that's something I can look at, along with that curb and gutter.
And maybe not even
You
a
could
sidewalk,
put
just like a
sidewalk
path,
in.
pea gravel,
Mhm.
something that doesn't really need to be maintained or plowed in the winter time, so.
Yeah,
Or even just bike parking in general might just be a thought.
Yeah.
like parking. Okay,
I
yeah.
don't
yeah.
know, just
Yeah.
those, I guess I'm just trying to spitball something just to get people here more than just to pay a ticket and, I don't know.
Where does the city bus drop off across the street? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
there's a sidewalk, just.
There's technically a stop here and then this stop has really been pushed down in front of the time, the clock tower.
Where do they normally
place.
cross, like to go to the library or whatever?
And I have noticed more and more people
Mhm.
riding the bus to the
Mhm.
library. Like it's getting more common to see
Mhm.
people get on and off the bus to
Right.
walk into the library. Which
Yeah.
is
There's a
pretty
stop right there, right?
cool.
Yeah.
So and so while we're talking about that, in addition to this project, and yeah, there we go. So we are finally fixing that. So we're gonna put an ADA ramp there
Nice.
and then with the ramp down.
Nice.
Again, trying to get the grades to work and the slopes to work and everything. We tried going west, we tried going the short route, but I suspect that people will also wear a path. Kind of go down that way across the grass. So the consideration that we've had is a set of stairs right to the side of that landing, right past the ADA.
Sure.
So just a set of stairs. We have considered that and looked at that. So,
Yeah, all that functionality, just, it really can make this more attractive.
Mhm.
And then intentional landscaping with that, it's gonna look cool.
it will, I think it will.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's really good. So yeah, so that'll bring us into compliance with that crosswalk there. That's been out for a while, so.
This is the most we've ever talked about a parking lot,
Mhm.
hands down.
It's interesting.
Really?
I mean.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
It's usually like, how many stalls, right? Okay, go.
I see that here, learning. I don't know. We talked a while about the parking.
It's the singular crown jewel.
That's Mountain Road. That's Mountain Road. I was mocked and ridiculed for that. Also one time I helped this neighborhood up just north of here, the avenues of North Ogden.
I said that too, and I still believe it.
I believe it too. I think it's good.
Let's talk about driverless cars then.
It's
Somebody
not
make
easy
a
taking all the
motion.
punches and arrows for the city.
I think he's got one more parking lot.
Yeah, so one more parking
yeah.
lot is the senior center. So this empty lot that's around the east and south side of the senior center. We plan on installing some stalls there. So this one will give us about 60 stalls here, additional stalls than what we already have in the parking lot now. And so this parking is primarily for visitor to the senior center, to the whole civic zone. Library patrons could park here if they wanted to. So it's kind of some additional parking that we're providing. I believe there was an agreement way back when. John might be able to help me on that, with an additional 70 stalls that we had agreed to with the library. And so this 60 plus the stalls that we're providing out front fulfills that agreement with the library. So actually it exceeds it. So this one also has landscaping that we worked closely with planning to try to meet our standards for landscaping and trees and islands. There's a little corner that we are right now just waiting for Kroger to get back to us with an easement
Oh, yeah.
along that corner there.
Okay.
So
That's one thing I wanted to talk about.
yeah, so Kroger owns that. We've sent emails back and forth. They've agreed to allow an easement there.
Did you explore an easement angle the other way? Meaning,
It's quite a bit higher,
is it? Okay,
right?
It is.
Yeah.
There's quite an elevation difference.
let me tell you why go ahead.
I mean, it's like 8 or 9 feet higher.
I know that,
So you
actually.
couldn't really get a
Yeah.
drive.
Well, here's the deal.
Be like your driveway.
In a parking lot like this that goes to nowhere, but is surrounded by buildings on both sides, creates like this, hidden space for people to go. And trust me, I have one of these behind my home. And I think the 3 people in those houses are probably gonna hate some of the activity that goes on there. Like I find prophylactics in my backyard, like in the summer, because there's this shed and this parking lot and people can just go park there, right? And so I'm not saying there's, well, all sorts of stuff that can go on there. And so I feel like we're kind of creating this place. And I thought in some way to open it up, even if it's like a big cascading stairs to go down to Kroger or something, to increase visibility, even if it is 9 feet higher, may have people not thinking that they're in if we wrap this thing in trees and everything, which normally I'm a huge fan of, I think we've done a disservice to I don't know.
You want to see
Spanish steps with no documents.
Cascading waterfalls on it. No, I mean, anyway, so I was concerned about that. I love that you're trying to open it up there. I thought even maybe opening it up the other way, even if it was steps or something,
Right.
may reduce that, hidden. You know what I'm talking about? The little hidden.
You
place,
could
right?
do something with fencing along that between Kroger, right there, that little spot right there, you could do non-opaque fence, an iron fence or something that
Well,
allows
even
light
this, even
in
this easement,
there.
if we get this, that opens it up and makes it
Yeah.
a lot less,
Mm.
hey, I'm back here in this corner, you know, right? Cause it
Right.
makes I mean, is that a big enough easement for a vehicle to go through?
For a two-way. Yeah, that's the reason we had to take that corner. If we didn't have that corner, it would just be a one-way. We didn't want that, so we reached out to Kroger. They said, oh, yeah, no problem at all.
All right.
And so,
Problem at all, get back to you in 6 months.
right?
So the other thing that does is it opens up well, are they open to any kind of access into their own parking lot? 'Cause right now, if you're in that subdivision right there, or in the subdivision's behind, to get to Ace Hardware or something, you've got to walk all the way up and back to 2500 and then back down around Nielsen's. And I'm thinking, sit right there, like,
So there is a trail here,
Yeah,
oh, there is?
yeah.
There's access there.
and then there's an access here.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
I wasn't aware of
That's
those.
correct.
I was just thinking
There's a little
that
gate
down at
right
the
there.
bottom left of the new L would make a lot of sense, but. Okay.
And there's
Oh,
a
we don't
lot
need-
of-
We don't need to have trails everywhere,
That gate's used a lot right there in Legacy Drive.
is it?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Okay, all right, I redacted it. Actually, I don't redact it.
Someone already thought of it, you just thought of it again.
I like this parking lot a lot. I love the idea of using that space, and I think you've packed it in there and got the spaces that we need. I like the access points on both sides and the easement there, so I don't know why I felt like I needed to say I liked it.
No, I think
Positive
the
feedback.
Yeah.
task here is a little bit more straightforward than the previous parking lot, I guess. We're gonna end with less comments here. I think there's a lot more going on in the north parking lot. And I think the parameters here were
This serves its function.
pretty straightforward and accomplished the task, so great going, you
Right,
know?
perfect.
I do have a question and I'm just wanting clarification. I noticed the line in the staff report that says that this parking design is unable to meet the 10-foot setback requirement on the south side of the lot. And maybe other people have more information, but I'm just curious as to what we're thinking about that and where that's coming from and a little bit of history there maybe.
Yeah, so on the south side, right along those three houses that we were looking at earlier. To get the number of stalls to get the 60 and the drive aisle, we needed to reduce that landscape buffer
Yeah.
between those.
I guess my question is, and I don't know if I'm off base with this, it concerns me whenever we're doing that as the city, just because I feel like we've had other applicants in here that were like, nope, not gonna happen. So I don't know what my other planning commissioner members know or think
I
about
hate it,
this. Yeah,
I mean, it pushes car horns that much closer to someone's home, and they're right on the property line anyway. I would say whatever could we 45 that and cut out some parking and?
We could, if we did the 45, I believe. We'd probably lose close to 5 or 6 stalls.
But can you move
Right
the
along there.
whole bottom parking lot?
But
just
could you-
further-
I agree.
Closer
Could
to
you
the
still meet
further
the
north. Yeah.
So we considered that, so that area, that open area is actually the detention basin. Sorry, stumbling on my words here. So that's the current detention basin for the senior center. So we had considered putting it underground and doing like a storm tech system.
No, but if we just switched them, isn't there room for a detention pond? On the south side instead of, or on the lower side instead of the upper side, couldn't.
And just move it, just switch
So
places.
So give them, it still have the.
Just,
the
if
easement.
you ended up with a longer, narrower. I'm purely saying it just to meet the setback, because if we're gonna give the city a variance here, I think there's a pretty dang good argument that becomes ordinance by default.
Well, the problem is, just last meeting, we turned down Big O. for wanting to do that.
exactly.
And so
And what about these
I think
homeowners
that's
here?
probably where we need to either,
Yeah, we can flip flop.
but even the same, do we have the capacity or the ability to pipe some of that water out to the wetlands to the west or wherever to reduce the storm drain requirement there?
I mean, the bottom side's lower in grade.
It
The
is,
water's
yeah.
running there.
It actually goes there right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so, it actually exits out the bottom and actually goes under the pond of the Legacy. Development there, it's actually piped under it.
Cause I would
right
say,
now.
even if you gotta do a real narrow linear, somewhat detention between the fence and the stalls on the south side, so you'd have two. Somewhat retention on both sides to meet what you need. We probably need to push that parking lot up just to meet our requirement, so we're not.
Yeah.
Cause like I said,
Very much agree.
very last meeting, we just said no, and.
Yeah.
I mean, we said no against Washington Boulevard, but we'd be okay against this, City Street, but. This just doesn't put the right foot forward for.
Completely agree.
This is yes against residents' backyards.
I have a
That's
church parking lot in my
relevant.
backyard and the cars are probably 4 or 5 feet off the fence. I can't stand it. I think we need that to maintain that buffer. It was put there for a reason.
So that would be, I guess, the suggestion on this side is figuring out that to, and again. I mean, our suggestions to him was work with the city to try and get capacity in the pond to bury his pond, so he could have parking there. And I would say the same, if we have capacity in a pond, one of our regional ponds somewhere else to satisfy some of the need here. Then that would be better than pushing the limit with the, up to the property line.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so look at that.
Is it the same variance on the east side? The
It's the same width, yeah.
I'd also say that because we're over capacity, like I see this parking lot actually getting used a lot. I've noticed that with the library, the back parking lot is getting used more and more all the time. People are like, oh, this is kind of easy. It's off the traffic, it's, you know.
Because we changed it to a one-way road, and once they get back there, like, well, I can't go back, because I'm parking here.
Yeah, but people are kind of getting used to it, and I see this happening as well, and then people will mill around it a little bit more. Where we have extra stalls, if we're looking at the front part as kind of a total campus thing, and we have to lose a few stalls for even aesthetics, I would suggest losing some stalls because we've got capacity back here. And this is gonna get used, it's further away, but it's gonna get used.
Oh, it will.
Although I'm not sure how much further away it is, because directly across the street, you can access the new public safety building from in between the buildings, right? I think that, I remember that from when we first talked about it. So in
From this-
between this building and the new public safety building,
Yes,
there's a corridor.
there is.
And there's an entrance in there that people
Oh.
parking here can just walk through there, right? Or-
Yeah, well, yeah, so if you
So it's not
go,
like they have to go all the way around.
Right.
There's a way to get
Correct.
directly from this parking lot to the public safety. And
Correct. yeah, it would just come up with this ramp on this east side here.
Mhm.
And then it would go on the new sidewalk that we're building with the other parking lot here, that they would access it from there.
So just as to bring the whole ordinance into it, the ordinance says that. Doesn't say 10 feet is required. It kind of does. But what it does say is the planning commission has the authority to reduce this requirement based on site conditions such as grade differences in adjacent uses. So the planning commission does have some wiggle room for side yard setbacks.
Yeah, but that's the neighbor's backyard.
Well, what I mean is it not front,
Okay.
so side and rear. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're required to.
Yeah.
You just have the option to.
I would say we don't exercise that.
Can we get clarity on, so it says that you can't meet the 10 foot, what is the setback that's proposed, just real quick?
I believe it's 5.
So we've gone from 10
we
to
have
5.
Is it a solid fence that's up there now?
Well,
It is.
and we paid to put in, or half of the cost for the concrete fence and the fence, knowing that this was gonna be a parking lot. So
So.
the city
we have a full
invested the
fence there.
money.
We have the ability, I'm okay with it, I just didn't wanna. Tell the big old guy no, and then
Yeah.
come in here and say, oh, well, never mind that rule, but. You're
Yeah,
saying
even the
different
fence
ordinances.
as an extra reason why we could be justified in doing it right
So
there.
we have a concrete fence on the property to the south.
Yeah.
So there's
Their
a,
backyard.
there's a
6 foot?
concrete wall and then a fence on top of it.
Yes.
It's taller over here.
Mm-hmm.
But down here, there is a little stub wall and the concrete wall might be 2 feet. And then it's a 6 foot fence on top.
6 foot, what type fence?
Solid vinyl.
Solid.
Vinyl, yeah.
So no light headlights can go into those houses.
I've got headlights in my living room at night when the prophylactic people are in the backyard. Then they turn off the lights, that's when.
Were those residents notified about, like, did we have to directly notify them about today in this conversation, or was that not required? Because I'm just surprised that maybe they weren't here to weigh in on this.
I don't know on site plans if we are required to notify the neighbors
Okay.
under our code.
So
Sorry.
I'm okay with it the way you've got it, if it meets with what John's saying with the ordinance. You know, the fence, I feel like satisfies the headlight issue and I mean, the fence does more than 5 feet's gonna do in space.
That's true.
Concrete fence.
Like I said, my concern was, we're not making an exception for the city, and I mean, I was the one that stirred the public works up, and you weren't here, Eric. I led the denial of the site plan over there because they didn't meet our landscape ordinance.
And the fence wasn't
Yeah.
tall enough.
And the fence,
Mhm.
like, we can't make exceptions for ourselves because we are asking for forgiveness later, like they did. But, so as long as we do meet our own rules, then I'm okay with it. I wasn't aware that we had that flexibility, so. I think that the fence satisfies the concern that I have with the neighbors there, the cars and headlights, but.
And then I guess the clarity, am I not mistaken to say that the clarity is with the Big O situation we're talking about? It's a different ordinance because it's on that main stretch of
Mhm.
Washington, therefore we had no wiggle room.
Yeah.
Well, and it's street frontage. So a good example is here that we've maintained the buffer required for street frontage as per code, and he was really trying to creep into that street frontage area.
Right.
Yeah.
Or this is more like a side yard backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a backyard.
And a reduction in privacy in land space has been walked back a bit by the increase in privacy with the use of the fence. So I think it's a wash.
And here's another fairly recent site plan, although much of the landscape was in, but the fence between these uses and this commercial area is right here, and there's less than 5 feet between the gutter. But this was a pre-existing, it might have even predated our current code. As an example, that's the physical therapy shop. That's just south of Jiffy Lube.
So I guess I would be interested from the planning commission, just in terms of, so the ordinance says that we can make a determination to change it if the site plan, et cetera, kind of lends itself. So what are we making our decision making based on? Like, if someone came up in the future and asked for the same variance, if you will, can anyone speak to just what you're thinking to help me for my decision?
Clarification, may I? This isn't a variance. A variance is a legal
Oh, good
mechanism
point,
that,
good point.
okay.
So what's the, can you read that line again?
Yeah, so planning commission has the authority to reduce this requirement based on site conditions such as grade differences and adjacent uses. So it's not an exclusive list just to those two, but I think you're right. If you can articulate the reasons, that would be helpful in any motion made.
Okay.
So I would say the reduction is the fact that we've got a fence atop of, you know,
Concrete wall.
a solid fence that separates the use of the property and provides that
Mitigation.
separation.
Well, have we given you so much that we need to see this again? I mean,
I think we walked back a lot of it.
like, well, yeah, we did on the lower part, but on the upper part, it was, hey, what about this and what about that? And
I feel like we went in a big circle, but we're back to,
I feel like the only thing we added to the front, when we suggested changing where the safe exchange zone is and leaving those as stalls, adding access to the sidewalk. Is there
Yeah.
anything else?
okay, there was a lot of discussion. I
I'd
didn't
like
think.
to see the front part again if it's possible, timing wise. I think it'd be great. If we can.
Well, if it's materially different than what we're looking at now, I mean, if it's something that we can write into a motion, I don't know as I need to see it again. But you were throwing down stuff. I felt like we were spitballing.
Oh, no, yeah, and it really came down to those three things.
Yep.
And
So-
I was just posing the question.
So on this area, a good example is, like the grading isn't gonna change and the perimeter of the parking lot's gonna change, but if you would like, we could get kind of a preliminary and bring back, hey, look, here's the features we've talked about that we've added. Just because, you know, the building's coming down, which means we're also gonna be bringing fill in to, and so, but I think we could bring that back knowing that essentially everyone's okay with the grade, the size, the location of the stalls. It's just maybe those peripheral items that we could bring back to a future
Yeah,
meeting if
maybe
you'd
just
like.
come back for once over landscape plan.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever have a private developer come back, but we're the
Yeah.
city and we're the, you know, this is the town's.
We can make them come back to me.
We want a captive audience.
I think with a private developer, we wouldn't have spitballed the way we did. It would have just been approved with
We wouldn't feel
conditions.
like we're part owners.
Right, yeah, or maybe feel like we got it.
You do live here, right? So.
But I do think that there were no comments specifically on this site plan, right? Grading and drainage, things like that. I purely think it's just, I don't know, let's give it one more.
Keep
stab.
it
So-
See
say-
how people are gonna use it.
If you just said, hey, you know, I want the landscape for the north parking lot to come back, we'll bring it back.
Okay.
What about, moving what do we call it, the pickup zone for kids? What do we call that? Do we need to include that in the motion?
We can include that in our notes to just say, hey, look, this is where we're gonna have the cameras at point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause the reality is, it's not gonna, even if it is in the similar location, it's not gonna be all 7 stalls. Right now, I think we have 3. But so it'll be some combination of 3 stalls in this area that we can bring back when we get a better feel for where the cameras will reach and stuff.
For sure.
Okay, I hate to say this, any last questions? All right, thanks. Thanks, Eric. Do we have any public online that would like to comment on this? And
We do have,
practice to allow it up.
just the one individual who has not raised his hand.
Okay. We'll entertain any other discussion or a motion.
Well, I just recognize that we kind of deviated from our standard procedure there. We usually let the applicant present, we discuss after. I mean, we cut you off and all sorts of stuff and threw a bunch of stuff at you. I appreciate your patience with us.
We do have a couple conditions of approval, so does that need to be included in the motion?
Yeah, I think approving it as proposed.
As
except
proposed.
bring The landscape plan back for the north parking lot.
Okay, were you ready to do it?
Yep.
Okay.
I was ready. No. I was leaning forward for the, make a motion to approve. As staff has recommended. With, what'd you say? With the what?
Exception of bringing back the
Exception.
landscape plan.
Yeah, to just bring back the landscape plan so we can look at that again for the north part of it.
I'll second that.
And we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Nancarrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes,
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Webb.
Yes,
And I vote yes. All right, let's move on to our legislative item tonight. Our zone text amendment 2024-3. Public hearing and consideration and recommendation on a legislative amendment to consider amending the parking setback and landscape buffer requirements. This is a public hearing, so we'll hear from our presenter, our city planner, Ryan Nunn, and then we'll enter the public hearing. Ryan?
Thank you, yeah. Excuse me, so this legislative item, the benefit is we actually, this was addressed a few years ago previously. I believe in it, if you look in the staff report in 2022, really the idea came to reduce some of those setbacks on non-arterial streets or on some of the side streets in the city, where there was a 20-foot standard setback. And the idea is to reduce that to 14 feet on streets like not Washington and some of those major arterials. But what occurred was, I believe, a few years ago, there was a reorganization with the code, and so it was just inadvertently left out. But due to that long period of time, we're hoping to just bring this back through so it can get approved again and go through that needed process. Really, our staff comments are, that 20-foot can be kind of can impose that excessive burden. But by just reducing it to those shorter setbacks, we can still maintain like the quality environment, both with parking and landscape standards. Staff we recommend an approval of this due to its history of having been approved before, and I can help answer any other questions you guys have.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, so we talked about this when we had that big O here, that this used to be our ordinance, and when we updated the ordinance, for some reason this got left out as the old version. So this is just simply bringing it back to what we used to have as an updated to 20 feet. We go back to 14, I believe, right, John? We scroll down to the red section.
Yep.
Right there is really what's being changed or added back in
On non-arterial.
non-arterial roads. So any questions for our planner?
There was something else about the landscape buffer being reduced too from 14 to 10 or something, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yes.
included in this? I'm not seeing that in the.
Yeah, it's crossed out below, but not in red, right? Is that what
Okay.
I saw or something?
Got it.
Okay, well, we'll go through our process. This is a public hearing. We'll now open the public hearing. If any public are with us or would like to comment on this item, please do so at this time. If you're online, again, raise your hand or type in the chat message. The public hearing is now open. Anything online?
No raised hands. Should have probably mentioned it's Councilmember Pulver, so.
Okay. So he'll be seeing this in a couple weeks anyway. All right, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
We have a motion
I second
and
that.
a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consideration, recommendation, and again, this is a recommendation onto city council to change the zone text amendment.
Prior to any discussion, I move that we recommend this in a positive manner to the city council.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. Discussion? If no discussion, we'll vote. See where we at. Commissioner Vancaro,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mason.
Yes.
I vote yes. All right, thank you. We'll now go into our public comments. Any public would like to comment? That would be by Councilman Over. You would like to? This is the only public attending tonight.
We wore him out.
Yeah, it looks
All
like he's
right.
happy.
Any comments from our planning commissioners?
I'm glad we took the time to talk to you parking lot stuff. I think it was great
Mhm.
and important. And I think this is a very, very visual part of our city and it's worth looking at the landscape plan again. I think that staff and engineering and all the elements of the city, John, you guys have put some real thought into how to reconfigure this campus. And I think it's looking really great.
Absolutely.
Great work.
I agree with all that.
Mhm.
And I think if we just casually, yay and nay things as they come through and don't provide a lot of input, are we really planning? Right? And we should be spending more of our time planning and less of our time just approving. And so, appreciate your patience with us to talk through also. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Webb.
The only thing I had is I will be at our next meeting. Commissioner Mason, will you
Yes, sir. What date is that?
The 20th?
Oh, my goodness.
Tickets?
No, I've got a jerk from California coming in, wants to go to dinner.
And Carol, will you be
At
here?
Fleming's Steakhouse.
Actually,
Yeah, okay.
will we still
We
have
might-
a forum?
We might not, if,
I
I
haven't
don't know
had
what's
functionality.
coming down the pipe. You
What's
know
the
that?
20th?
It's the third Wednesday.
Let's make sure the rest of us.
I am very unlikely to be able to attend that. This work thing, I've committed to it already. Yeah,
Well, if you don't know or whatever, maybe Brian pass on to Scott and just have him send it.
Are we gonna have a
Make sure
quorum?
We're gonna have a quorum.
Yeah, we
And
can.
then,
I'll be there.
I'll
if
be
we
there.
wanted to move our
Okay.
meeting a week,
So if you're there, I'm there. What about Johnson? Can you be there?
I could be there.
I think we have a quorum. We're quorumed.
I can also be that.
Yeah. I'm more than
He's
happy
like,
to-
"Ah, check out that."
I don't know.
What, we'll,
question,
we'll see what's on the agenda, because there might not, you
Right.
know, we've missed about every other meeting lately, so.
Yeah, just not been bad.
We'll check that and see, and then if Scott maybe just ask who could conduct that night.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Anything else, commissioners? The pickleball courts are going in. That's- Did you know that?
yeah, I've been saying that since 2000, you guys haven't heard a lot of that rant, but like.
Oh, come on.
Oh, no.
Right, yeah.
I'd like to motion.
That was back in 2016, I was
Yeah.
passionate about that.
Yeah, they're almost ready for this.
It's called Loman Park. Oh, yeah.
That's
That
great.
one that kind of goes down the hill. It's over on the side of that. It's on
Yeah.
the west
The
side.
lesser known sled park.
Yeah. It's a great park.
It is, yeah.
Great park of grass.
Pleasant View had such great success with pickleball courts, we thought we'd put some more right on the.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Share,
That's a good.
share some pickleball
Part-
courts.
Part of it is to help avoid some wind.
Yes.
And then there are some currently proposed and planned for the Barker Park
Oh,
facility.
Oh, those would be great.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, you're not gonna be playing there in the mornings.
Right.
Yeah.
Ryan, anything from the planning department?
No, not currently.
Okay, John, anything?
Yeah, two things. First off, if any of you would like to go through the new building, we'd be happy to arrange a tour for you. And then, secondly, you're gonna get a partial tour maybe in 2 weeks anyways, because that's where we're gonna start holding the meetings.
Really?
Very
So-
exciting.
So
Fancy.
you'll be in the new court council chamber. One of the nice things about it is you'll have to share, but there'll be a screen in front of each of you that'll mirror what's on the
Oh, way cool.
screen.
Will there
Which will
be
be
outlets?
easier to see. There are some outlets there under the table.
Oh, very good.
But it should just be a little bit better facility, and there'll be plenty of room for all the public.
Very nice.
What's the chair situation? No, I'm just kidding.
The chairs are comfortable. I bought one and sat in it for a day. They are not the most expensive chairs. Cause we didn't want to spend $900 a chair. We spent about $125 or 125, sorry.
Yeah,
But they're leather and they rock and they'll work.
I mean,
I did use it for
Kidding.
a day and a half just to make sure. I ordered one. It was like, okay, I think we can last a couple hours.
So
So,
one, two comfy.
right.
yeah. I'd like a 1 hour chair.
Sure.
Hey, this is the longest meeting we've had.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm sweating over here.
And sorry, I missed the last couple of meetings. My daughter took swim lessons and it was a parent-child, and so I did it with her and it was
Oh,
Wednesday night.
No,
fun.
fun.
That's amazing.
So she now knows how to blow up bubbles.
Motion to adjourn.